The debt ceiling crisis is a recurring problem that threatens the financial stability and credibility of the United States. It occurs when Congress fails to raise or suspend the legal limit on how much the federal government can borrow to pay its bills. If the debt ceiling is not raised or suspended in time, the Treasury Department would run out of cash and be unable to pay all of its obligations, such as interest on the debt, Social Security benefits, military salaries, and tax refunds. This could trigger a default on you. Debt, which would have catastrophic consequences for the global economy and financial markets. To avoid this scenario, Congress and the White House need to find a way to resolve their differences and agree on a budget plan that addresses the long-term drivers of the national debt. However, this is easier said than done, as both parties have different views on how to balance spending and revenues, and what priorities to fund. Moreover, some lawmakers use the debt ceiling as a leverage to extract concessions from the other side, creating a political deadlock that risks pushing the country to the brink of default. Fortunately, there are some solutions or reforms that could prevent or mitigate future debt ceiling crises, such as abolishing or raising the debt limit. This would eliminate the need for Congress to vote on increasing or suspending the debt ceiling every time it is reached. Instead, Congress would only authorize spending and revenues through the budget process, and the Treasury would automatically borrow whatever is needed to cover the gap. This would simplify the fiscal policy and avoid unnecessary uncertainty and brinkmanship. Some countries, such as Canada and Sweden, have abolished their debt limits altogether. Others, such as Germany and France, have raised their debt limits to very high levels that are rarely reached. Adopting a balanced budget amendment, this would require Congress to pass a budget that does not create a deficit every year, unless a supermajority of lawmakers votes to waive this requirement for specific reasons, such as war or recession. This would force Congress to make tough choices and live within its means, reducing the need for borrowing and lowering the debt burden over time. However, this would also limit the fiscal flexibility and responsiveness of the government in times of crisis or changing economic conditions. Moreover, it could create perverse incentives for lawmakers to use accounting gimmicks or off-budget spending to circumvent the amendment. Creating a bipartisan fiscal commission, this would be a panel of experts and representatives from both parties that would propose a comprehensive plan to reduce the deficit and stabilize the debt over the long term. The plan would include reforms to spending programs and tax policies that address the main drivers of the debt, such as healthcare costs, aging population, and low revenues. The plan would then be submitted to Congress for an up or down vote without amendments. This would create a framework for compromise and consensus building among lawmakers who otherwise might not agree on anything. However, this would also delegate some of the fiscal authority and responsibility of Congress to an unelected body that might not reflect the preferences of voters or interest groups. These are just some of the possible solutions or reforms that could help solve the debt ceiling crisis and improve the fiscal outlook of the United States. However, none of them are easy or perfect, and they all require political will and cooperation from both parties. Ultimately, the best solution is for Congress and the White House to work together to pass a responsible budget that balances spending and revenues in a way that supports economic growth and protects national security.